we approach the fall equinox, it's time to consider a different concept of fall, namely the way some people seem to be on a constantly falling trajectory, namely the motley crew that the ex-president seems to be surrounded by on a pretty much constant basis. Now, you already have heard me talk about the crazy Kraken lady that at one point I referred to as an escapee from a mental asylum based on the way she was talking and behaving. But actually, this guy, Mike Lindell, whose initials would be ML, but really would be better suited as something like DPP, as in the delusional pillow peddler. As you know, he sells pillows. He's constantly promoting pillows, which, if you look at his chart, a Cancer Sun, trining Neptune, it's a pretty good fit. The Sun is in a sign related to home comforts, and trining Pisces, or rather trining Neptune, the natural ruler of Pisces, is a great angle for sleeping and pillows and all the rest. But the thing is, this guy has been in the midst of the political turmoil the last few years, and when you listen to what he has to say, it's a kind of mix between horror and comedy and utter delusion. It makes no sense. It's completely irrational. Comedians have a field day with this guy. I think his name is Clapper on the Trevor Noah Comedy Central show. Whenever he interviews him, it takes him a matter of seconds, to confront him with his irrational thinking and his contradictions. The thing is, now we hear that the Department of Justice is getting interested in the matter, and they've seized his phone. And this is because in the astrology, that Venus in the 21 range of Taurus is being confronted by Saturn. And you can pretty much predict that from this point until Saturn gets out of Aquarius, so that it can not only get beyond this Venus, which it won't until November or so, but then beyond that it does, except that later it has to get through the Mars as well, which is an opposition. And so very likely the pressure, the discomfort continues until then. I don't have a birth time, so I cannot really get a good sense of the Saturn and Pisces period, which follows during 23, 24, and 25. And so, absent an ascendant or midheaven to connect to that Saturn in a potentially troublesome way, it's possible that beyond that, the challenge eases and he doesn't get into major trouble. But then there's the fact that sometimes what happens with charts is you don't have to wait for the next cycle in order to see the manifestation, meaning I've seen plenty of criminals that find themselves doing lengthy jail sentences, and all it took was the trigger aspect, such as the aspect that he's in now. However, I still would feel more comfortable pointing in that direction with an ascendant, i.e. a time of birth to back it up. And all of that said, he does have planets that are cardinal, Cancer, Moon for sure in Capricorn regardless, Saturn also in Capricorn, and then Eris makes a square to his Cancer planets, which, by the way, is why he's involved in constant chaos, which is the way Eris manifests itself on the downside. And with this crew, always expect the downside, the lowest of the low, like the bottom of the barrel. The bottom of the barrel isn't bottom enough. You have to go, 10 feet below that to qualify what these people are like. But those cardinal planets will attract the attention of Saturn eventually, of Neptune also, but Saturn most importantly when you get into the middle of the decade. And so to the extent that this thing extends, then it would work itself into that and magnify the problems. But that would be looking ahead. In the meantime, as I said earlier, until spring 23, he has to deal with the Saturn, whereupon it enters Pisces, which we can't quite pin down. But soon after that, middle of 23, Uranus enters degrees where it conjoins his Venus, which, because it squares Venus at birth, makes it a potentially tricky planet. God help this guy if that Uranus or the Venus has any connection to any form of legalities, legal exposure, criminality, etc. Because if so, that Uranus moves pretty slowly. It's going to be there for years because in terms of the 21st degree, where the square is happening, that's maybe a year or two. But the problem is the Mars at 29 extends the Uranus for many years. And so what that means is that the near term becomes very complicated to the extent that that Uranus gets a grip. In which case, the man is in a lot of trouble. Bottom line, as I said, it's hard to believe that this country is going through a period when people like this get even the most minimal attention, but such is as it is, and in a very real sense, I make Trump responsible for the whole thing because Trump, in a way, is a manifestation of pure idiocy, and so he attracts people of that ilk into his orbit constantly. And that's what's happening. But, smart or not, idiot or not, it's never a good idea to attract the attention of law enforcement on this level. Seldom does it go to a good place. Seldom does it end well.